From ContainerDays Hamburg, this video is proudly presented by Dax IT.
My name is Lian. Maybe some of you know me. I used to live in Hamburg for quite some time before I moved to Amsterdam. And today I will tell you a story about an organization. And this organization had a great idea for meeting the needs of their users in a better way. What did they do? Someone probably went to a conference, came back and said, we need to build a platform. Right? It's the same way we all got to do Kubernetes. Someone went to a conference, came back, we got to do Kubernetes now. Same thing with AI. I know, it's just the same thing. Kelsey talking about it. It's just the hype cycle. But I joined this organization, and I should say about that, the organization is called the Rechtspraak, which is the Dutch word for the judiciary. And they have obviously very unique needs. And when I joined them, I had this idea of, okay, I can talk about how we got there, got to know all these groups that are involved or in need of a platform, and then I will give a talk about how we successfully brought everyone together and everyone's now super happy. It didn't work, just so you know. It did not turn out great. Well, it turned out okay. But if you came here thinking that I will give you now the recipe and it will work for your organization, no questions asked, it's probably not going to be that. So yes, goodbye. Thank you very much for coming. You got to still wait for the beers, though, so you might as well just keep sitting. But yes, I can, however, and I will share with you all the things that we tried, what worked, what didn't work, and then hopefully you will take from that something that you can then use in a discussion in your own organization and can be like, I learned this at a conference, so it must be true. Okay, so this is not going to be a super technical talk, but I will tell you a little bit about a tech stack because I think it's quite important. It reflects a little bit like the organizational structure as well. So we were an OpenShift platform. We built an OpenShift platform. Why? Because it's the government. Everything needs to be on-prem. We had a platform that was running OpenShift 4.16. 4.16 was end of life, so we built a new platform that was starting from 4.17. And obviously that also meant everything had to move. So we had a running platform already that, you know, I have opinions, wasn't great, but we built a new platform that we felt was better, and we were kind of in the midst of moving users to the new platform. Then also, this is for the new platform, we had 4 clusters. 2 were for dev workloads and 2 were for prod workloads, and we had 1 cluster for managing the other clusters. In the old world, we had dev and prod on the same clusters. So you can see why that wasn't ideal and why we moved to this new structure. And then also, this is something that I'm probably going to be talking about later a little bit. Delivery was running through Azure DevOps. Again, it's the government, you know, someone made this decision at some point and now you're locked forever. It's just how these things go. But this is the tech stack that we had to work with. And if you've worked in a governmental organization or maybe banking, fintech, something like that, this might be a kind of similar tech stack for you. So I can't play this file for some reason. That's so sad. Oh, I know why. I don't have internet here. Just quick about myself. My name is Lian, as I said before. I call myself a cloud native human, mainly because I believe there's more to us than our roles, you know? Let me try if I can, maybe I can get it now. I'm a freelance platform engineer. If you are a recruiter, that is my title. That is what I do. I'm also a public speaking coach. So if you like the way that I speak, feel free to come and talk to me later. I will do something risky now. I will try to play this video. Oh, yeah. So outside of public speaking and everything, I took a year-ish off to pursue stage performance. So I also was doing stand-up comedy, theater, musical theater. I'm currently doing musical improv theater. And highlight for us today is that I also organize karaoke parties for tech conferences. I'm the chief karaoke officer, the creator of Kuberoki, the first and only Kubernetes karaoke community. And I will try to get us some karaoke tonight. So please, you know, talk to me, follow me on the internets if you're interested to do karaoke tonight. Moving on. So the Evo, don't ask me what it stands for. I don't know. This is Dutch. I don't know. I'm German. But they are an IT service provider for the judiciary. They mainly build web services for judges, lawyers, and anyone who wants to do anything with judges and the courts. Web forms, I don't actually know that much, but there were value teams, is what we called them. If you've ever read team topologies, there's a group of basically teams that are providing the actual business values. We call them value teams there. There were cross-functional teams, developers, testers, SREs per team, and mostly most of what I saw was written in Java and .NET. There was also some front-end stuff written in TypeScript. And the teams themselves were then organized in bases. So we were in the infrastructure base and we were the container management platform team, CMP. The new platform was called the Modulaire Rechtspraakplatform. Thank you. So we were one of 4 teams in this base, and one of the other teams in this base is called OST, which is short for Ontwikkelaar Support Team, and they were building all the developer tooling. And again, I will talk a bit about them later because there were some overlaps and a little bit of friction between the 2 teams, between them and us. So let me just do a quick excursus, like why would you want to use a platform? Who here is working on a platform currently or is about to work on a platform? Okay, that's not everyone, interesting. And who's doing it for production, like production workloads and actually for realsies? Great, cool. Do you know why? Do you know why you're using platforms? Okay, I will tell you if you don't. No, I will tell you what I think, why I think platforms are great. As Melody mentioned before, I used to be the co-chair for the CNCF's Tag App Delivery, which housed the platforms working group. So if you saw Dominic's talk earlier, the platforms as a product research that was in our tag, the TOC killed everything now, so it doesn't exist anymore, but anyhow. One of the reasons why I think platforms are great is if you think about like delivery, software delivery, in the olden days, this is how I got started 17 years ago. We had scripts. We had scripts running on our local machines. Let's say a script to build all my artifacts, and then a script that deploys my stuff, connects with the internet maybe, or connects with the server where I want to deploy things on, opens up a tunnel, and then I push things on it. I will move on. Okay, great. So this was in the olden days, and everyone had a version of the script on their local machine, and if someone new was joining your company, you had to give them your script, right? You gave them the script, and then hopefully it worked for them, or maybe it didn't. And then obviously everyone had to change a tiny little bit because everyone had a tiny bit of different setup. So that was not super great. So then the next step from there is we were thinking, okay, if everyone has the same script, why don't we now write a service that does the same thing, but is a central service that everyone can just call. So now we have these build services or deploy services that we can then call from our local machine. And then most of them were based on those scripts that we originally had, right? So what are the things about services that we need to keep in mind? In a flow where we think of the user who's using, let's say, a build service, it could be something like there's a code repository, the build service kind of lives next to it. The user will call the build service and receive an image, and now the user will take that image and pass it onto the deploy script that kind of lives next to the production environment, and that's how you would kind of deliver an application or deploy it to the production environment. Now, the issues that you might be running into is that you have 2 separate services that don't really know each other, they don't talk to each other, and they could be APIs, but often aren't, and they could be configurable, but often aren't. Why is that? Think of team topologies. Now you have the situation where you have the value teams, the teams that are building services, and then you have the teams that are building the business services, and now you have one or multiple teams that are building, your deployment service or your build service. And those teams, there's a gap. Like, they don't need to talk to each other, they don't need to know each other, and they don't ever have to eat their own dog food if they don't want to. So if there were any standards ever, over time, this will probably deviate, because these teams just do not belong together and they don't feed into themselves. So where do we go from here? The idea is, with platforms, you will kind of get rid of this idea of this problem by putting everything into one platform. In a platform flow, in a platform-based flow, as a user, you will request the deployment to production, let's say. And internally, the deploy service will then check with the artifact repository, maybe, is there a current version of the artifacts that I need now? If not, I will call the build service, so not the user, but the platform itself will call the build service, get an image that might be already existing or needs to be built now, and passes this through to the production environment, and that's how it's deployed. So to the user, you only go and say, I want to deploy, and everything else is kind of abstracted away from you. And the idea of platforms is that you will optimize the user experience for this golden path. So this is the general idea of platforms. Now, for platform engineering, we like to think of the platform as a Lego set where the users will build the actual bricks that come with it. So, the houses that come with it. So we provide the building blocks and the users will build the actual houses. But users, in our experience, in our scenario, were kind of like expecting the house to be ready to move in. Basically, they just want everything to already work out of the box. Some wanted like really fancy and modern houses with, I don't know, AI or other features. And then others just wanted like something that's very robust, but like very well executed, more conventional, but excellent. Now, the problem is that if you're not very clear about the vision and the scope, that invites users to just dream up kind of like their ideal house, like their ideal platform, and then they're disappointed or confused when that is not the case, and they can get very angry with you. So as an example, what happened with the Rechtsprag is that we had an image registry, and because we had two clusters that were living separately from each other, every time we built something on one cluster, because everything needed to be built in cluster, we had to build it again on the other cluster as well. So that was obviously very annoying and led to issues. So when we built the new platform, we were thinking, okay, let's build an external registry. We build wherever, and then push it to the external registry. Obviously, we had OpenShift, so we were already thinking, why not use Key or Harbor or something? Well, the business, which is something, if you work in a governmental organization, you know there's a group of people, they're called the business. They make decisions, and then you just have to live with it. And every time someone asks you, but why are you doing this way? The answer is, the business said so. So the business decided that all artifacts, no matter what kind, have to live in the same thing. So they spent so much money on an artifactory repository, and it cost more than the entire platform. But you could store everything there. It was highly available, blah, blah, blah. And then someone, well, the business, decided that the build itself also should be outside of the platform. It should be happening in Azure DevOps pipelines, which, again, I have opinions about that. But the main thing is that now the building and the storing of images was completely separate from the platform. For us, it was great because that's one less thing to maintain. It was kind of like not great on the other hand, because it does feel like this is a central thing that kind of belongs to your platform, you would think. So there was a lot of back and forth that we had with the developer tooling team, because they maintained Azure DevOps pipelines and they were supposed to maintain the external registry. Those were 3 people. They were not able to maintain all these things, but again, business has decided. Now on the user side, they were super unhappy and confused because they kind of expected this is a platform, and I'm supposed to develop on this platform, and I'm supposed to be running things on this platform, so why can't I build on this platform? It's a good question. Don't know the answer. As I said, in the end, the stakeholders decided, wait, this is so expensive. Let's just use something that we're already paying for, which is Key on OpenShift. It was, I think, a year after we built the first POC to use Key that they circled back and decided, oh yeah, let's actually do the thing that we said a year before that we should be doing. And this could have all been avoided, I think, if we had if the scope and the use case had been more clearly defined from the beginning as a part of the platform. Like, what does the platform do and what doesn't it do? So this is kind of my central point, is that developers, well, everything was so confusing because we were still going from a service-based approach. So we were supposed to provide services like building and storing images and artifacts, but we sold them a platform where the experience and the expectations were just completely different. And in a platform scenario, really what you should be thinking of is that developers, they're not clients anymore, they are contributors. So they, just as we were providing the building blocks, the developers are the ones that actually build now the services that you use to, I don't know, deploy something or to build something or to test something. So if we look back at our evolution, really these services, they came from developers anyway, because developers know what they needed, and we just like repackaged and repurposed them. So really, this is kind of like the circle back of giving the power back to developers. So this is the way that I try to kind of explain it to people when I try to explain like what is the problem when we, as platform engineers, try to enable engineers or developers to use our platform. So obviously, well, hopefully you know the story about give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, but teach him how to fish and you will feed him his whole life. And when we're enabling, what we're doing is we're giving people fish instead of teaching them how to fish. So you might have heard that some people say DevOps is an anti-pattern. Why? Well, in the olden days, we had this setup, right? We had the teams that were building things. We had the infrastructure team, the ops team, whatever, system admins, whatever we called them. And in between, we had the wall of confusion, right? Like developers didn't really know. They built something, they threw it over the wall of confusion and was like, you run it. It's fine. Then the whole DevOps thing happened. It was you build it, you run it. Great. So what did we do? We replaced the wall of confusion with the canyon of confusion. Well, which just means that, yes, there's nothing really keeping you from running your own stuff. Like, you're highly encouraged to do that, except that you don't know what you're doing. Like, you're a software engineer, and now suddenly you have to, like, build YAML files and, like, decide on, I don't know, I'm blanking. Whatever your favorite Kubernetes problem of the day is, I don't know, PVCs. Take a pick. So what happened here, as an example, in the Rechtsprag, there were some development teams who wanted to use MongoDB, and then some developer team was like, great, we're on a platform, I'm just going to spin up a Mongo instance, and it was 80 gigs big, so it just like took away basically every single resource we had. And the business then decided, no, we need an enablement team. So what did they do? They did this. So we were the platform teams. They hired some Mongo specialists. So there was a team of 2 who were Mongo specialists. It was great. They just never touched Kubernetes before in their lives. So then again, we were stuck doing like a lot of the stuff for them because they also spun up a container that was taking 80 gigs. I don't know what they did with that, but I don't know. It was the enterprise version, so that probably was the problem. But now, again, like we are now just giving the value teams fish. Like we're not teaching them how to actually do it. An enabling team, this is the way that the team topologies people have said it, not me, should be working towards making themselves superfluous, right? Like they should help you, enable you, and then go away, right? But if you do it this way, it's really a disabling team because now the value teams will never learn how to actually manage their own Mongo instances. So really an enabling team should look more like this. They should be emerging out of value teams and platform team together, and they should be just people who are in those teams, really interested maybe, really engaged, and come together as kind of like a community of practice or something. So that's my point. My point is that the best way to do platform engineering, a big part of that is to build a community around platforms. This is just the point that I'm just making, and I'm just going to make it again and again. We should be, the developers and the platform teams should be helping each other build the tooling of their dreams, but also take responsibility to fix things so the platform team can actually focus on providing the infrastructure for the platform. At least that's the way that it was for us, because we also had to maintain our own hardware, which was great. So I will tell you like maybe a couple of stories about building community building work that didn't go super well, and then obviously there's gonna be something great. So when I joined, we had this meeting called SRE meeting, and as I said before, the teams were cross-functional, so almost every team had an SRE person in there. And when I joined the team, this SRE meeting was basically on live support. Like, meetings were canceled a minute before they were supposed to happen. No one really cared, because no one really liked to go there anyway, because nothing really happened in those meetings. Everyone was just sitting there and then kind of like, okay, it's been 20 minutes, no one has said anything, let's just leave. But then after I joined, I was like, okay, I have a background in developer advocacy, so I was like, I'm gonna try and create a community out of here. So I restarted this meeting as kind of a forum with an agenda. That's what it said. Restart as forum with an agenda, where you would know before you go to the meeting what would actually happen. Agendas, very important. Don't go to meetings that don't have an agenda. You're teaching people the wrong thing if you do. But what actually happened then was that it really felt like a tribunal. So we were in, these were in-person meetings. We were there in a meeting room. We had 20 people joining. They were all in the office, but they all called in, right? So then we were basically just like two platform engineers sitting in front of this monitor, and it felt like, the Avengers movies where Nick Fury is in front of all the state leaders, and they're like, why didn't you do this? It was basically like that. It's like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Every time we suggest, they were like, it would be so great if we had this. And we were like, yeah, it would be great. How about you build it and we help you with it? Oh, suddenly it wasn't that great of an idea anymore. So eventually we were like, this is not working. We replaced it just with a public sprint review, because part of the idea was we inform our users about what our platform is doing, if it's broken, whatever, but we also give them space to discuss things. But then it turned out they didn't want to discuss anything. So then we were like, okay, we don't have to sit here and make everyone's life miserable. Let's just do public sprint reviews, and then everyone can just call in, be busy in their meetings, which they love, and then, that's all fine. Oh. Okay, this is not... Okay, well, never mind. We will talk about the meeting that went well without the slide, because apparently I accidentally deleted it. So there was another meeting that was the microservices meeting, which kind of had a similar issue where people didn't know why they were spending, and it was like a 2.5-hour meeting, right? So people did not know, why am I sitting here? And it was 9:30 in the morning also. But again, the idea was to, okay, give it an agenda so people know, does it make sense for me to go there or not? Or maybe I come in at 10 instead of 9:30. Also, it was organized by a manager, which had much more pull than if I organized something. And he would know about what was going on in the teams, and he would know about who built something, and he would go to that person and be like, can you please come to our microservices meeting so you can explain what you built and you can share the tooling and whatever. And that worked pretty well from what I hear. I didn't go because it was 9:30 in the morning, but from what I hear, it went really well, and it's still going, but it needed someone to really go and pick that person, personally be like, hey, I heard you built this. Do you want to share it? And then also the whole meeting became more about the solutions that people built and how to improve it and how to work on it together, rather than I have this problem, why is it not solved yet? So out of this, what I've learned about, well, I've been a community builder for some time, but the cornerstones of any internal community like this, to me are consistency. So you do want to do always at the same time with the same structure, with the same people, or the same faces, so people know what they can expect. It should be safe to ask questions. Spicy discussions don't leave the meeting unless it is so decided. There's a Las Vegas rule that people have for retrospectives. You know what happens in Vegas or what happens in the meeting stays in the meeting. Acknowledgement. If you did something, hopefully someone will praise you for that. If you have a grievance to air, you will be heard. And then also, there will be follow-ups at the end, right? So it's not like we talked about it for half an hour and everyone hates it and then nothing happens, right? But there will be an action item and someone will take the responsibility and say, you know what, I will talk to this person about it, and there will be a result of it in the next meeting. So one example, this slide is completely not where it should be, but one example for community building that I was trying to push really hard was inner sourcing. So basically open sourcing, but closed, like in your organization. So what I was trying to do was to build a CI library for Azure DevOps pipelines, because this is what we were using, and we were not using the hosted version also. We were using the server version that runs on your own machine, so the documentation for that is absolutely terrible. But we had, things that we wanted to share, like some examples of best practices, how to build an image, how to deliver it to the Artifactory. So we already had stuff that we could share and show people as, this is a best practice, how to build your container image. It also allowed us to do some testing, which was amazing, because now we have to eat our own dog food. I have a function, like a Azure DevOps function that, connects to the cluster, and I can call that in a test pipeline. That's amazing, because now we are actually forced to do our own stuff. And testing becomes very important when you are providing something to other people. Suddenly you want to avoid regression, and it really matters that it works. Same thing with versioning. Versioning also became very important because you want people to be able to rely on what they're running in their own pipeline. Unfortunately, it's Azure DevOps pipelines, so the only way we could version things was with branches. So I had to open yes, thank you for acknowledging the pain. But we had to have long-running branches that are version 0.3 or something, and that was then what you had to reference to in your own pipeline. It's obviously not great, but hey, it works. And at this point, it's been a year. I'm like, if you solve a problem in the government within a year, that's a win. So in summary, platforms, they're collaborative effort, right? It's not just the platform team does it and then just use it, but we all come together to build the platform of our dreams. Communicate your scope as early and as often as you can. Obviously, it's fine if you are changing the scope a little bit, but the vision should be clear. Like, what does this platform do to you, give you, ideally from the perspective of a developer? As a developer, this is what you're going to do. You're going to click this button, you're going to click that button, and then you're going to have this. If it changes, communicate. Building community, so important. Give people the space to experiment, give them the trust to break things, to try things. If they break your platform and you can't fix it, that's on you. Then you didn't provide a good enough platform, right? But also take care of building kind of a shared understanding, like a shared language, kind of like your own little, community within your organization. And this is something that I needed to hear quite a lot. It's just you need to let things go. Like the meetings that I tried to do, the inner sourcing, it didn't go as well as I hoped it would be, because I'm like from a different, I've done a lot of startups. I'm from like the CNCF, everything has to be super fast kind of world. Going there, just needed to learn, what, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Just let it go. It's fine. Just want to end with this this quote from one of my favorite people, Miles Borens. He is a Node contributor. Don't hold it against him. He's a very sweet guy. But he says, APIs deprecate, being human never will. That's the whole, I think we forget that as a platform engineer, especially platforms, even more than usual, we are solving human problems, right? We're not, like, obviously, yes, there's a technical component, but we're just using tech to solve human problems. So understanding humans and working with humans is and will always remain the most important thing, even as an engineer. It took me 10 years to realize that, but here I am. So that's my talk. My slides you can find there if you are brave enough to scan a QR code. Yes, and as I mentioned before, I do public speaking workshops. So if you thought this was fun, I would like to learn how to give a talk, or I would learn to do better meetings or better sales conversations, whatever, please feel free to also scan this other QR code or talk to me. I also have stickers, karaoke, I said all of that. So please come and talk to me. I'd love to chat some more, and questions probably also. Thank you.
Big round of applause, please. So we will take a moment for questions. I know you all want to grab some beer, but please stay for another 2 minutes. I promise you, it's gonna be worth it.
If you have a question. If you don't have
if you don't have one, I have one, because
okay.
I'm a community lead really freshly at Clouditiers, so I need some advice on stuff. Okay, so my first question would be how to get management to give you the resources to do internal community building, because it's always really hard to get, especially the senior engineers, to get them to join meetings, because first of all, most of senior engineers I know, they hate meetings. Especially if they're not like 100% only technical. If it's like with
yes.
human interaction, it's sometimes really hard to convince them. And yes. Second of all, management doesn't want to give the senior engineers to go to like internal meetings that are not like customer based and like.
Yes. Well, as I said before, don't go to a meeting that doesn't have an agenda. If you're organizing a meeting, have an agenda. Because like, a lot of times people go to meetings just so they can do the preparation that they should have done before the meeting. So number one. I think the thing with management is you gotta understand what it is they want. So if you say they don't want to give the senior engineers the time to go to a meeting, they should only go to meetings with salespeople, that's because they don't know what the return of investment will be, right? They think engineers need to be sitting in front of computers all day, and that's the only way they make money or have sales meetings. Now, what I would argue then is that sharing knowledge also saves a lot of costs. Instead of having every single senior engineer figure out something by themselves, sitting two of them together, harnessing that synergy will save you money. And a platform also doesn't need to be the whole developer portal, everything's done, you click it and you click and you got everything. The smallest iteration of a platform can also just be documentation. It can just be a page in your internal wiki that says, these are the best practices to do these things. That's your first platform. And then you're like, oh, okay, we got a lot of comments, we got a lot of input here. Now some people are really like, well, I already built this, so why don't I share this, right? And then you get like you do these small steps that don't cost a lot individually, but they add up. Hopefully by this point, you can already talk to management about, listen, we already have saved 200,000 euros just by, like not everyone having to figure out how to do this. Give me a little bit more time to do like a 30-minute community of practice. Maybe do it during lunch break for now. And I'm not a big fan of exploiting our breaks for this kind of stuff, but if this needs to be done, this needs to be done. So just, if management only sees money, kind of like try and find like a commercial argument for this. There's a lot. I'm sure you know these arguments, right? What it is to you as engineers as like time spent and energy spent and cognitive load, that is money, right? That is just, we're very expensive. We're probably the biggest expense in any organization, like engineers. So if you can spend it the best, most effective way, that is money that they can save.
Thank you so much for answering that.
You're welcome. I don't know if, because it says connection lost, so I don't know if we actually will ever get these questions.
I can take a look at my admin platform. Give me one second.
In the meantime, does anyone want to hear a joke or something? Yeah, joke. Yes, okay. Have you heard of the singing computer? It's Adele. Thanks.
Okay, since...
Thank you. Yeah.
since the connection is actually lost,
No worries. You can ask me in person.
We have 5 questions here, so
okay.
I will read them up for you.
Yes, thank you.
So the business seems to have made many weird or wrong decisions in hindsight. Did you interact with them? How were they briefed?
So they had a basically a meeting that was only for top level managers, Scrum Masters for some example, POs, and then Scrum Masters. I don't know why, but and architects. So I only interacted with the Scrum Master, the PO, the architect, but never with the group as such. And it was a very like by committee kind of way to design software. So I wouldn't say necessarily that's because I'm very kind-hearted and I don't think of people, never attribute to malice what can just as easily be attributed to stupidity. They see money. It's like they make money-based decisions. They think it's so much easier to have all artifacts in the same artifact store because we only have to pay it once. But then you're already paying for this. Now you're paying for this extra thing. They didn't realize this until the bill came on the desk, right? That they couldn't see it until it got there. So I wouldn't say the business did wrong decisions. They just did the decisions with the information they had at that time and never asked anyone who could have given them better information, probably.
I mean, exactly at this point, I would like to move one question up because it's like a follow-up question. Why not integrate the business on decisions? Did they not want to, or just dump, and shouldn't they just be another voice in the decision?
Well, I think the way that the organization was structured was just it was very top down. So top level was, we're going to build a modular platform. Then it was it needs to be OpenShift. Then it was it needs to also, then we were saying, we need an external registry. Okay, what are we going to buy? Because that is also a thing that happens in the business is can I buy something first? Which is reasonable, right? If you can buy something, you don't have to build everything yourself. I think that makes sense. But they already made those decisions, and then the architect basically said these things need to happen. And then if we were able to choose the tool, we were quite happy already. So it's not on us, is what I'm saying. It's not our fault. You gotta ask the business why they did it this way.
So I would say this is the last question we're going to do for today.
Yes.
There are some more questions, but I really recommend you. I met Lian at the speakers dinner, and she was amazing, great to talk to. So please do so in the networking event.
Oh, toss.
And
Thank
I
you.
have to read out one last thing because someone said, "Great talk, Lian," and I totally agree.
Oh,
so
thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening, and please talk to me later. Grab some stickers.
From ContainerDays Hamburg, this video is proudly presented by DAX IT.